What's up, kiddos? It is Mr. Pino. I am hanging out with friends. I've got, it's going to be difficult to stay in the frame here, so I'm just going to stand behind you guys. I'd like to introduce you to a couple of weirdos, really good friends of mine. This is Russ with his finger on his mouth, and that's Jack. The bald one is Jack. It happens, buddy. You're super handsome. You're just shiny.
Thanks, Dad.
This interview is specifically the point that the accomplishing goal here is to try to expose my students to as many professionals within various venues of theater, and it's everything from of film acting to podcasting to music, singing, composition. We talk a lot about collaboration, and in my classes, I have a variety of students that have various. They diverge in their interests. Like they're all artists. They all want to make things and participate, but some of them only want to do the film acting. Some of them only want to do the audio. Some of them only want to do the tech booth. Some of them want to be front and center for the musical theater and singing and dancing. So to show them variety, I'm just doing a couple of interviews with my friends while we're hanging out so that they can meet some professionals working in the industry and see that there are so many possibilities to the world of performance arts. So I'd like to start with Mr. Ivey, Russ, and let's just tell yourself, tell the kids a little bit about yourself and what projects you're working on, what kind of experiences you've had, and how diversified your portfolio is when it comes to all the venues that you pursue the arts.
Okay, well, once again, I'm Russ Ivey. One of the things probably the biggest thing that I do that most people in this industry know me for is I founded and run the Metropolitan Atlanta Theater Awards.
Which
And
I have won.
yes.
I got one. It's actually in my classroom. Kids,
And
probably look over at me right now, and I'm doing a Vanna White with it. Go on. I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm very proud of it.
Yeah, you should be
To me.
proud of
I
it.
like
Yes,
that.
and Jack has won one as well.
Yeah, Jack.
Shocker.
Yeah.
How surprised as you were.
Yeah. No, I founded that organization about 14 years ago. And if you haven't heard of it, it's one of two awards programs that's done in the Atlanta area for live theater. I do that. I'm also an actor and singer and director. I do more, when it comes to theater, I do more acting than I do directing, but I have done my share of directing. Lately, I've taken a hiatus from that and I've been working on film. And there's a little piece of a film that we're working on right now behind me. I work mostly behind the camera, but I do act in front of the camera from time to time as well.
Just as a digression, this girl that's in the background there, her name is Lauren Rosenzweig. I've worked with her before as well. Who did the makeup on her? That's great makeup.
She just drank a lot of coffee.
She just drank a lot of coffee that day. She is a young, vibrant, beautiful woman, and in this particular scene that he has pulled up and paused, there's a really effective makeup on her. It's just making her look very aged.
Yeah, she's supposed to be about 25 years older than she
is.
Yeah.
Who did the makeup?
Karen Patton. It's a lady we met in Atlanta that she's come in and done some makeup work for Jack, actually, on a film that he was directing, and then I was
Oh my
impressed
God,
with
that was a creeper film. We're gonna get to. Russ, do you mind? This is a pretty decent segue. Let's bounce over because I respect y'all's time.
Nobody likes me. It's
Yeah. So
go, Jack.
go, Jack. That's enough from you, big guy.
I'm just gonna take my shoes off because your shoes are off.
So tell them a little bit about again the diversified portfolio, some of the projects that you are currently working on, that you've worked on in the past, Um, he had just mentioned this film, and this guy, you gave me nightmares with that one. Legitimate, and I'm not just joking around. Like, it was some dark content, man.
Okay.
So let's give Jack an opportunity here. What you got?
Well, I work a lot. As far
I love
as
it.
far as my film experience goes, I dabble here and there in editing. That's my main focus as far as behind the scenes stuff goes. I also work as an actor. I actually worked as a Nazi in this particular film.
Yes.
Thanks for typecasting, Russ.
Oh, a skinhead that I know who I'm really good friends with who's white.
Beyond that, I also work on a podcast. I don't know if I should plug it because it's not it's not quite family friendly, but we cover bad movies. I know, like completely
So it's kind of
new and innovative.
And from what I've seen, it's kind of like just a little. It's like South Park meets Rotten Tomatoes, and he gets people together. I believe Russ has. You've been in an episode of that before.
I made him watch a horrible children's film.
And they'll sit around and podcast and record audio to go over, so that if you ever wanted to watch these movies, or then you do commentaries afterwards too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, we basically take a movie point by plot point,
Right.
from start to finish. Basically, so you don't have to watch it. Let us tell you about it.
That's fantastic. I wanted to ask you just a quick thought. We have several people that are interested in video editing, and both of you have experience with this. Which suites do you use? Are you guys Adobe? Are you guys running the which program are you fond of?
Well, the good news is, I operate off of a PC, so I run Vegas Pro, and Jack is Mac.
So when I started learning, I kind of taught myself the basics of video editing through the free applications that came on my computer, which in this case was iMovie. I mean, it's a good starter, but I moved on from there to Final Cut, and I'm actually working right now to transition into Adobe, which is not a whole lot of differences, but
there are similarities, and then once you learn the basics, it becomes user interface, and which one you feel more comfortable with. I believe that, but some people, just like the argument for PC versus Mac, people are very protective and support the suite which they bond with when they're spending so much time editing, because it does take a long time, doesn't it? Video editing?
Yeah, it takes hours and hours.
And then you have to process it, and then that whole rendering process, all that takes just ages, especially if it's a larger movie we're putting together.
Yeah, like a good, to bounce off of that, with this film, we shot it in 4K, and even though my computer's very fast, and it's an extremely fast computer, I still have to make proxy files in order to edit off of, and just making proxies right off the bat takes a long time.
Just can you give a brief definition of proxy for those that aren't caught up on the tech end of that? So it's essentially, it comes down to the processing power which your device is offering in conjunction with the RAM that it has to handle that. Is that correct?
Yeah, like I'll take a 4K file,
right,
and I will downgrade it to about a 1080p high definition file instead of 4K.
You're compressing the quality through,
yes.
The only program I know of that at my level of the game is a Handbrake. What program do you utilize for that?
Actually, Vegas Pro, it has an option in there where you can click on it to make a proxy file.
Okay.
But I also use, you can do it in DaVinci Resolve as well, I believe.
Okay.
You can make proxy files on there. And DaVinci Resolve is a free platform.
That's
that
cool.
You can download, and a lot of people are going to that now.
In reference to the creative venues, because that's kind of where I started here. The phrase that I hit a couple of times is diversifying your portfolio. A lot of the students at the beginning of the year were speaking to me directly about how they maybe wanted to do one element of the course, but weren't completely sold on other elements of the course. we talked with your wife about collaboration, and she really was able to give us a couple of good thinking points, why it's important to collaborate, what benefits it has when you put a production first, regardless of what level you're participating in. I'd love to give you guys an opportunity to briefly touch on that. Talk about the various ways that you've contributed to art a little more. Keep plugging some of your side projects, because these guys have been doing it for so long, and they're just regulars. You know what I mean? They're industry men. What about working gigs? Can we focus on working gigs? Anything that you guys may have put up for awards? Anything that you may have produced and had to take on budget, or have received compensation for?
As far as that goes, I'll let you tackle that one. We can talk about Esther's Attic a little bit.
Yeah. Esther's Attic is a film that Jack and I worked on a year ago. It's a movie short, and we finished it up and we submitted it to several film festivals, and it actually ended up getting accepted as well as winning multiple awards at 3 different festivals.
Congratulations.
Thank you. As a matter of fact, one of them, it won Best Featurette, which is effectively Best Picture for a movie short, not a full feature film.
We're still waiting on a couple to get back to us, right?
We got rejected.
And news to Jack, in real time. We could do a whole lesson on having thick skin and in the industry, right, guys?
Right. Yeah.
That's so. With the, you're talking about the time of the movie. I imagine that the correlation, if you're doing theater on Broadway, would be the division of seating capacity. So you talk about Broadway versus off-Broadway versus off-Broadway, and that relates to how big the theater is, what numbers you're having on a standard schedule. And then with your films, when you guys are submitting these things, there are different categories for length, and then how else do these categories exist within the film competitions? What are the larger groupings? Is it by genre and then subgrouped straight to time? Like, do you have a horror full and then a horror what did you say? How would you?
You have feature. Some film festivals have featurettes, which is between short and feature.
Okay.
When what that is anything from 20 to 40 minutes.
Okay.
And then anything under 20 minutes is considered a short.
And that's something we did have to be conscious of with editing Esther's Attic, because that initially was looking to push. It was looking at like 26 minutes, I think.
Yes.
Like almost 30 at one point, and we had to cut a couple scenes, which honestly ended up being the best in and of itself. But otherwise, we'd be competing against a much bigger category.
Right.
All right. So we are pushed past 10 minutes. I want to do a couple of snowball questions. Just throw it at you. See first thing that pops to your head organically here. I just heard you mention that you guys had edited a project with you, which you both worked on, and Russ was behind the camera, and Jack was in front of the camera. Is that correct?
Yes.
And behind.
And behind. Yeah. So there was a lot of different roles the different hats that you guys had to wear, different functions that you were performing. What were some of the issues that may have arisen? What were some of the challenges that you faced when collaborating with others and with each other? Just the first thing off the top of your head. Be nice, boys.
You want me to take it? I
can take it. Fine.
Now, one thing that, being an artistic person, whether it's in theater or theater, film,
appropriate for high school. Come on now. I can't take you guys anywhere.
No, being in film or theater or anything, it's as an artistic person, we all have a lot of pride in what we do, and there is a bit of ego there.
Right.
And you have to learn to let go of that when you collaborate, because you'll find that if you give up, in our situation with Esther's Attic, I had to rely on Jack to help me edit and even suggest cutting some stuff that we had filmed. And that's a hard thing to accept, that I've got to cut this scene, but you end up accepting it because you've collaborated with somebody and their opinion really matters.
We had an entire 2-page, it was at least 2 or 3 pages of just one entire scene we had to cut completely from the film.
Yeah.
Including an actor who we hired on, but again, because of timing and because of just the pacing of the project itself. We
Ended up on the cutting room floor, so to speak.
Yeah.
Big time.
So, Jack, how, as a professional in the industry and in various industries, do you handle differences of opinions with individuals, not necessarily Mr. Ivey, but individuals who carry with themselves a strong belief that they are in the right, and maybe sometimes get outside of their lane, because we have business jargon in these industries for a reason, so that we can try to define and capitalize off of each other's strengths, and so that we can follow those roles and give organization to the endeavor as a group as a whole. So how would you suggest modeling for these students? What advice do you have? Because Lord knows we've all been in situations where you don't see eye to eye, and some people just don't act as professionally as you'd like them to. And we talk about the high ordeal, the ideals of projecting positivity and being a good collaborator to work with. But specifically, my question for you is, how do you cope with it when the way that we would like to be, people are not professional? How do you deal with non-professionalism? What advice would you have, especially in a high school venue, for students that they just don't see eye to eye, they don't get along from differences of opinion, and so on and so forth?
That never happens.
Never, no. There's no drama in drama ever. Never.
Well, I would say, first off, it depends on whether or not they sign my checks.
Oh!
But in those situations, my advice would be just to, you're hired on for a purpose. Try to just keep your focus on that job. Sometimes it can be tough, if you're hired on to edit a project with somebody else. Say the other person editing is also the director, and you just have he has one idea of a cut. Sorry, I'm not indicating anybody specifically. They have one idea of a cut, and you have another idea of a cut, and you're not coming to agreement on it. Well, at the end of the day, you have to talk things out. Eventually, at some point, something has to get done. In that specific situation, I would recommend showing it to a third party. If it's a collaborative, creative effort where you can't come to a single, to a unanimous decision on it, then it's just a matter. Like I said, if you're working in different fields, my advice would just be to again keep your focus on the task you're hired to do. If you're a grip and you're working as a grip, don't try to tell the lighting, the gaffer or the grip,
There's a famous phrase of "stay in your lane."
Oh yeah.
And that's said a lot in the film industry.
And we've all had to learn that. Am I right, gentlemen? One of the things I was discussing with your wife is that when we were younger, all of us as aspiring artists, and our focus was more on our developing our own abilities, and as a result of that, oftentimes before you gather the maturity to put yourself behind a production instead of in a production. Your wife gave me a brilliant quote, and I hope that I can remember it. Maybe you can help me with it. It's yourself in the art and the art in yourself. Did you remember that quote?
Oh, she's never said that to me.
It was beautiful, and it was about the difference in not necessarily, we start trying to find the art inside of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we find ourselves inside the art. And she said it much more eloquently, obviously. But we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for spending the time with my classes. Do you have one more one-liner, one of your favorite quotes as it pertains to, because you guys we've all dipped our toes into working with young aspiring artists across the platform. What's a good what would you leave with the students at my high school? What's a good piece of advice? What's a good one-liner?
You're going to fail, and you're going to fail again, and you're going to fail again. The key to it is you keep pressing forward and you never quit.
I love it. Resilience.
Yes.
Dig on it. All right. What about you, Baldy?
I'll stick with that one.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I'm sorry.
You know, these things that we've been told so often on my website, I'll do the a great actor is. Let me see if I can, because I blast my kids a lot, and I'm going to blast you just as a
Bring it.
modeling. Bring it. A good actor is.
Patient.
A good actor can.
Be patient.
And a good actor must.
Patient.
All right, I dig it. He's testing mine. All right, well, thank you, gentlemen. I really
Thank you.
appreciate your time. Kiddos, let's do this.